Alright, this is going to be my SGDQ Specter of Torment New Game Plus submission, and the way New Game Plus works in this game, really quickly, is when you beat the game you get to start back over and you have all of your items and upgrades from the previous adventure. So the way we do runs of that is we take a file that has already beaten that. You can use that file yourself if you want to, but typically we tell runners make a copy of that file, and then you go and make it a New Game Plus file, which is a commitment you have to make. But just so you can see what those items and weapons look like, because there's quite a lot of them, and this category goes by super fast. You have access to literally all your weapons, and the faster you can cycle through all of them, the better. So if you have the ability to swap between them back and forth, you have a very monstrous powerhouse of a character at your disposal. I'm going to be going into what all the weapons do and all the kinds of weapon swapping and stuff once we get into the run, but with that, I'm now ready to go. So, 3, 2, 1, go. So we start the run essentially by having rail mail equipped on the previous file that we copied off of, which lets us grind everywhere. And then we already have all of our health and darkness upgrades. Now, New Game Plus is a little bit different for Specter, because if you're familiar with the Shovel Knight series as a game, or if you're not, I'll just tell you real quick. This is an action-based platformer. And now that we have all of our upgrades and everything, we're going to be going fast, but we also have a huge resource to have to juggle. And that's our health and our weapon ammo have now become one and the same. So, if we fire off our weapons, we're actually killing ourselves here, which means that I have to be very careful and specifically know what I'm doing with all of my attacks. There are only 2 checkpoints per level now, one at the halfway point and one right before the boss. A little bit mercifully, checkpoints will refill all your health / weapon ammo, but beyond that, all the food plates that are normally found in the game have become bombs, so there's very little in the way of forgiveness otherwise. Judgment Rush, which you've already seen me using a bunch of times, is very powerful. All the weapons have been upgraded, and Judgment Rush allows you to target enemies and fly through walls to hit enemies, and because it's upgraded, you're invincible while you're using it. So like I said before, the faster you can cycle through weapons, the better. And we're coming up on the first boss already. This is Black Knight, and he's normally a huge pain, and you would juggle him on the right side by keeping him up on Terrapin. And we've got something that's a little bit faster than that, and I'm going to be using my vast array of weapons to try and murder him, essentially. Oops, okay, that's fine. I can still take care of him, he's just going to be a lot more of a pain. Alright. You could see that by summoning the Sentry and throwing sickles at him, he was just getting juggled back and forth for a while, so most boss fights are far from the conventional fight that you saw, probably on your casual playthrough. Every time we beat a level, we're going to be coming back to this, the Tower Hub, and this is where we get to pick our levels from, because unlike Shovel and Plague Knight's campaigns, and King Knight, who just came out, we get to do all the levels in any order that we like. In this case, we're just going left to right, because it's just faster mapping, but yeah, it's a pretty neat little thing about this campaign. It also works out because we're doing one of the more frustrating levels right away. This level, Exploratorium, has global cycles that we're going to be trying to catch, and I'm going to be using an item called the Chronos Coin to try and do that. Now, the Chronos Coin is the only item that we use in the run that's not upgraded, and that's because what it does is it slows down time, which is useful in a lot of ways, but the more time it slows down, the worse it is in the long run. So long as you can do a trick with the unupgraded coin, it's better off having it unupgraded. And so we routed that in. That said, it's pretty tight making it work with just the regular Chronos Coin. And hopefully I don't get crushed here in a second. Oh, God. Okay. Just barely kind of making it work. We are coming up on one of the first mini-bosses, and this weapon that I'm using, the Barrier Lantern, it's really powerful. And we're going to show off, well, now I have the Blood Mirror equipped, but we're going to show off how powerful the Barrier Lantern is in a second. Because this normally has more health than a boss, but it just kind of melts with the Lantern. Lantern, very much like a Leaf Shield, and I'll explain it better, but essentially It's not that great of a weapon to use on bosses, because bosses are extremely mobile. Instead, I'm going to be using a combination for Plague Knight of Chronos Coin and a bunch of my other projectiles. Because so long as you can swap fast enough between your various weapons, you can kind of clutter the screen. With a bunch of stuff, it'll just murder anything. Ow. That's fine. So yeah, any extra time that would have been incurred by having the upgraded Chronos Coin would penalize me, so having the unupgraded one is pretty helpful here. Started by using the coin, sentry, sickles, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, so close, and that soul got stuck in the vat? That was interesting, I haven't seen that before. Okay. But yeah, that is a pretty good example of what New Game Plus is like for bosses. Bosses just completely disintegrate in this category, and I love it. It really rewards you for being able to spin more plates than you should humanly be able to, that's for sure. I guess another good perk of doing stages left to right is that we take care of the other very lethal stage in the run, which is the Lost City. The Lost City's gimmicks include Bouncy Goo, which is always fun, and Lava, which is also always fun. Goo you can negate by using anything to cancel the kickback, so I use the mirror in that room, I'm using the spider sight in this room. Lava just kills you, so you don't want to deal with lava if possible. Ow. I'm going to be flying over lava on the next screen, which is kind of terrifying, but it's better than riding that big beetle. Okay. And then we do have one more terrifying trick coming up, and that would be Lost Spaghetti. So one of the casual Shovel Knight players, and I'm glad that we have such a good connection with the casual community that doesn't speedrun but still loves this game. They found this really crazy trick where we don't get to deal with lava as much, so you know that always puts a smile on my face. Essentially, we can turn the lava into goo after we've already fallen into it, so instead of dying, we just clip through the floor harmlessly. That is not easy to do though, it's super tight, and if I am too early, I die. If I'm too late, I lose a bunch of time. Not as much time as if I die, but you know. Okay, so turning this lava into goo as I fall into it. Nice! And then we have MooMooAkai, which is another fight that the boss just kind of explodes. And I'm going to be throwing everything at this guy again. Sentry, 2 sickles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, claw. Nice. His dives are random, so unfortunately, and I don't really have the chance to react to it. I just kind of throw out my attacks in specific spots in hopes he flies into them, but it's a pretty consistent kill. He just sometimes dies a little bit faster or slower, but that was a pretty average kill. Average, quotation marks. So this dream sequence, or flashback, is a look back at when Donovan was alive. And the only real difference between this and a regular playthrough is that I start out with my weapon, the Caltrops, which you normally don't have until after you beat this level. And that only offers this one time save. That's literally it. You barely even notice what happened. You wouldn't have known it was faster if I didn't even explain it. But yeah, this is a good example of what low percent looks like. This is typical Specter Knight gameplay right here. So if it was hard enough to appreciate what it's like playing New Game Plus, I guess that's a good example, a good contrast. And in this visit to the tower, I will explain, I guess, the Skeletal Sentry, which is a little dude that you can summon, and he'll fire off lasers and he'll explode. And that concludes my explanation of one of the weapons throughout the run. Stay tuned for more, because I don't have a lot of time to do that in the levels. So this stage is the underwater level of the run, and ooh, that's cool. That's slightly time-saving. There's a really tricky damage boost I'm going to go for in this room. Nice. Shoutouts to Steelheart for finding a very good setup for that. Another really good weapon, not the Bounding Soul, although that is very good, is the Spider Scythe, which I'm going to use to clear out a chunk of this room. And then I'm also going to use the mirror that I mentioned before in this next room to clear out some stone blocks before I get to them. So basically every weapon in this game has a use in the run, which is really, really awesome. Some of them see more use than the others. The Barrier Lantern, I will now be using it again. I'll get a little bit more time to kind of explain like how it works. So when you put it up, it's just like a Leaf Shield. It'll absorb damage. Every time it hits something, it levels up. So it goes from having baby flames to these level 2 flames to these level 3 flames. And now if I fire it, it'll deal a heart and a half. So in leveling it up off of something and then firing it at something, it deals 5 hits of damage, which is really, really good. And you're going to see it kind of destroy this guy. Nice. And again, that's something that isn't particularly useful on a lot of bosses because they move around too much, but it does have its use on mini bosses who are very content with standing still and getting completely pummeled. Really good use of sickle right there. Ow! Okay, I'm fine. This is fine. Let's try that again. Hitting through a wall because it can do that. Although, because again, my darkness is my health, that leaves me a little bit terrified of this room, because this is Bertha. I'm a little more terrified. You don't want to mess up movement in this room. Bertha deals 2 full hearts of damage, and that's a lot of my ability to fight back or anything. Not to mention I'm doing a damage boost right here. But we are coming up on Treasure Knight, which is absolutely one of my favorite. They're all really good quick kills. I love all of them for a different reason. And the reason why I love the Treasure Knight quick kill is because he dies really fast. Yes! So, a small primer, all of the bosses in this game do in fact attack and have patterns and all this other super neat stuff that you see casually in the any percent run, and especially in like low percent stuff like that. In doing so much damage to them, you're going to end up triggering their desperation moves, and it really manipulates where they're going to be next, so it's super handy that we can do so much damage, because it just lets us completely manipulate what the boss does and how it behaves. Before we go to another stage, we have to fight this mini-boss. We lost our little mirror jockey, Dark Acolyte. Now we have Dark Breeze to deal with. Thankfully, this is also a hilarious fight. Yes, he's just gonna stand there. I love it. That can go one of 2 ways. He either stands there or he moves around a bit, or he moves around a little bit and then he stands somewhere else, and he'll take a beating either way. But because he got rid of our mirror jockey, he is now going to be our mirror jockey for the rest of the run. And now we get to do one of my favorite levels. This is the Flying Machine. The reason why I love this level is because in every other category for Specter, you would be entering this stage low percent. So you wouldn't have any upgrades whatsoever in this level, but in New Game Plus, we have all the upgrades and everything, so although it takes us a little while to get here, we are armed to the teeth, which makes this one of the most fun levels to play through. Oh boy, this is fine. This is still fine. I am gonna have to figure out some stuff and things about my life in a moment, because I lost a lot of darkness. And darkness is super important to being able to live. I have enough to do this, which is really great, because there's supposed to be a mini-boss in this room, but not if you leave fast enough. And the Chronos Coin prevents the room from locking us in before we leave, so we can just leave before we even see the mini-boss, which is super good. I'm okay with that. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of darkness, which is kind of scary, because now I have to deal with this auto-scroller here, where a lot of these things can just straight up kill me in one hit. But that doesn't stop me from swagging. Ow, okay. A little bit more scared now. Didn't want to take that damage, but something I can kind of show off in the meantime is that you can fire infinite weapons for the most part. The only ones that you can't fire are the ones that are based on your movement. So like the Judgment Rush, the Hover Plume, and the Chronos Coin, I can't use those infinitely. So instead I'm just going to have to hang on here by a thread. Oh no. My thread has been cut short. But luckily, that just ends the auto-scroller immediately. So grabbing that checkpoint and dying is intentional. And it is nice because it also resets some of the global cycles in this stage, which would make it a little bit more unpredictable to know what's going to happen in some of these later rooms. And now, another good use of the Chronos Coin coming up. This is the Propeller fight. Propeller Knight is notorious for being incredibly difficult to deal with, but we're actually going to kill him, hopefully, so fast. I have to say hopefully, because you never know what's going to happen. That he's not going to break the floor, which is something that he usually does at the beginning of the fight. Nice. It's important to deal damage to him in those specific ways, otherwise he gets away and you can't do anything about it. In today's episode of What Weapons Do, here are the throwing sickles. So you can see me throwing a couple of them. They go through objects, they can hit on the way out and on the way in, so they're pretty useful for dealing damage to things, and they are one of the many items that I use in my death combo that involves the spider sides and the bounding souls. Thank you for watching. And if you're wondering why the bounding soul is so useful, that's because I can juggle it, so I can constantly have it hit an enemy, hit it with my scythe, and then it'll hit the enemy again and again and again. And I can just keep doing that, and it's typically pretty dang devastating. It's also great for clearing out certain rooms. Ow. Don't you love being blind? I love being in the dark. It's great. And if you thought that was great, wait till we get to the last room, where I'm going to be doing that, but way more scary. Okay, that was unexpected. We're fine, though. So for the most part in this game, you want to be grinding around. It's faster than being in the air, unless if you're doing a dash attack, but it's very rare that you'll be doing so many dash attacks. It's faster to be doing that. However, in the last room, there's a huge chasm, and all you can do is dash attacks to get across. And so there's a neat little trick you can do where you can dash to an object and then off of the object. We call those double dashes, shoutouts to Mario Kart. And in order to be doing that and not dying, I have to be extremely precise! I didn't land on the platform. You need that. It's important to be able to see, as I said before. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, the boss fight's also pretty silly. I'm fine. Okay. Trying to get back to the script. So yeah, this last room's going to be kind of super terrifying, and then a little bit about the boss, Phantom Striker. I'm going to be trying to kill him before he teleports away, because he loves being immune to damage and teleporting away quite a lot. Alright, here we go. We're fine. Didn't die. This fight has to be executed very well to make sure he doesn't teleport away and cost you like 5 or 6 seconds, which is a lot in this category because you can die and lose 20 or 30 seconds pretty easily. I horribly messed that up. I'm gonna go ahead and start this fight over. No worries. I want to show it off properly. Item swaps. That's a good example of like how item swaps are super important to be able to like understand, know what you're doing. Nice! There you go. That's the kill you want to see. Clearly, I threw the first fight so that I could show that off better. So we have one more flashback level to do, and in this one we're going to see what happens to our former self and this friendly homeless man. Don't skip leg day, don't skip leg day, don't skip leg day. Yes! He has a chance to just stop running for some reason, and we don't know what manipulates it. Not even the Tess knows exactly what manipulates it. And we do have one trick that is within our control, and this was found by Taiwan Ninja. So hopefully you'll kind of know, because it's pretty dumb. Ah, I grabbed onto the ladder. Okay, there we go. Got it. Yes, a wall jump off of pretty much nothing. Alright, so the Shield Knight fight kind of sucks because she has a shield in her front. As her name might suggest, she blocks a lot of things. Hopefully we can trick her into running on our Caltrops. I'm not sure those are going to hit her. Ooh, that was a good fight though. Oh my goodness. I can't believe she actually ran far enough to take that damage. That was perfect. So while I mentioned every weapon kind of has a use, as we've seen the Caltrops in the flashback stages, they're not going to be super useful throughout the run. They are used at least once more later on. So if you're a Caltrops fan, don't worry. That item does have its chance to shine in this adventure. But for now, I'm just going to be zipping around a lot. Beginning of the stage is a little scary. It's kind of tight on the darkness that I'll be using. I need to make sure I have enough for 2 more Judgment Rushes, which just barely works out. Because something I haven't brought up this entire time, not only are my health and darkness combined, but they're constantly draining over time, just to give you that extra spooky vibe. And I just barely made it. Yeah, there's so much about this character and campaign that works out really, really well. But now I'm in an auto-scroller, and I don't get to die and save time in this one. If I die, it costs me 1,000,000 years, so I definitely don't want to die. And this would be a great time to not only destroy the bitrate, but read off some donations. Also swag. Never forget the essential swag. If you didn't know this, Dread Talon will be a handy digging tool. So if you ever wondered what else you can do with it apart from destroying enemies, it's lovely for gardening. Have a couple more tricky rooms to get through in Clockwork Tower. It is really kind of terrifying to get crushed at such a late point in the game, but that can sure happen. And in this next auto-scroller, I'll actually take a moment to go ahead and talk about what my plan is for Tinker Knight. Because Tinker Knight, unlike in Shovel Knight and Shovel Knight and Plague Knight's campaign, bit of a joke. He gets one shot by an item in Shovel Knight's campaign, and he takes double damage from Plague Knight. Not the case for Specter Knight. So, another thing to mention is that, if I hadn't said it so before, bosses have desperation moves, we can control their HP. I kind of touched on that with Treasure Knight. Same thing definitely happens with Tinker Knight, except he just likes to run around a lot, which can be very difficult, but there is a kill that essentially knows where he's going to be and when, so we can line up a lot of damage on him. He's got 2 phases, so for the first fight I'm going to try and perfectly work out where he's going to be, and then for the second phase, very similar deal. It's kind of an insane spectacle to behold, but you can just enjoy the fact that I can make the skeleton love me real quick, and then he's going to be an essential part of the fight. I missed 1 hit. That's fine. I just need to... That works. That works. Okay, and then this guy up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Good fight. Well, you can still see the workshop. Not bad. I could have fixed my positioning just a little bit, but that was overall a good fight. And to join the League of Breaking Mirrors, I mean, Windows. Well, either way, that's not the league that we are, so Baz is out of here. We're off to Pridemore Keep, which is one of my favorite levels because it's really, really fast, but the tricks in it are all super technical, so it's a very satisfying level to pull off. We have one of my favorite little enemies we have named Paul Blart. He is top mall cop security, if he can stop us. Unfortunately... Oh, well, he earned his paycheck today. Good job, Paul. You've done it. You've made a fool of me. Getting by him is actually easier when you're not going fast. It's a pretty good day to be Paul right now. The rest of the level does have a couple of terrifying rooms, and then the King Knight fight, which is another exercise in finger gymnastics. I have enough darkness to do this. Good. If you see me constantly attacking whenever I'm near a wall, that's because Specter Knight loves to stick to walls. Wall climbing is just done by holding a direction. That's not good. Okay. This is still fine. I am very much making this up as I go. Okay, this is okay. We just got enough darkness to do this, so we're fine. This is... everything's A-okay. It's time for King Knight. I'm just gonna let this fight speak for itself. There we go. Whew. So we have one more cutscene, and then we get to go to our last of the bonk. Order of No Quarter stages, which is Polar Night. And this is where you would first see the grinding mechanic. But because we've had Rail Mail equipped this whole time, it's no real news here. The only difference is that the rails in this stage force you to go in one specific direction. So we're actually going to be trying to avoid the rails that are not particularly helpful, whenever possible. There's also a mini-boss in this stage, the Hurlsvulgar, which is quite the fun name to have to say. And there was a pretty good quick kill, but I do have to watch my darkness consumption. It's also not fun if you mess it up and die. Ah, that's fine. Would have loved to have gotten the one cycle, but I slipped off. No big deal. This is fine. There we go. I really would love to get over that jump, thank you. And I really need my darkness back, thank you. Skip all these. A couple more to skip. And then Judgment Rush just lets us skip having to go up and down in these rooms. There we go. This is absolutely my favorite fight to execute. And you can tell how well you did this fight based on whether or not you can kill Polar Knight before he leaves the screen. It's incredibly specific in both execution and positioning. So if I can nail this, I'm gonna pop off really hard. And I am most definitely gonna grab that checkpoint just to be safe. Ah, not gonna nail it now. That's okay. It's just a little unfortunate. I got hit by a snowball, and not only do you have to be incredibly precise about where you throw your weapons, but the position of Specter is important just to not take any damage, because every little thing will throw off that kill. That said, I do get one more trick to try and show off that's also really, really difficult. The next stage is the penultimate stage, the tower entrance, and from the beginning until about the halfway point is all one trick. This is all for Crusher Skip. So I need to manage my darkness. I need to be going really, really fast because of the decay of my darkness. I need to make sure I'm killing every enemy, picking up every darkness drop. In this room, I'm going to be manipulating certain enemies to respawn. So I have to jump over this gap, turn around, hit both of them. And I'm literally just barely going to have the darkness I need for this trick, which only just barely makes waiting on this crusher slightly less slow. There's a coin here, and then I'll just barely have the darkness for this coin. And not fall to my death there. And then use the Caltrops for those Caltrops fans. And that's Crusher Skip. Made it. Okay. The rest of the stage is still insanely difficult, but hey, at least I got the part that I can be proud of done. Bertha, please. So not a good chance for relaxing this auto-scroller before we got Black Knight, which probably stopped a lot of people from finishing this game, to be honest. There are two small tricks real quick. One is that I'm going to be able to finish this auto-scroller a little bit earlier. When you do an upwards transition, so long as the ladder is loaded and you can grab it, you can leave. And that's the case. And then for Black Knight, a lot of people struggled with the fight because you have to wait for him to fall out of the sky. We used to have a fight that just always stayed up in the air. We can do that without having to go up in the air. We can knock him down really, really quickly. But then Zerclips, one of the New Game Plus runners, found something really hilarious, which is normally when you hit this guy 3 times, he'll do a dodge backwards and you can't hit him. But apparently that's like proximity based. So we just get to bully him, and I love it. This is less good, because if he kills me, which he can easily do... That was a gamble! Okay. Terrapin could easily have killed me right there. Terrapin does a lot of damage, and I am very glad that Terrapin did not reach me before I killed Black Knight. Alright, last stage. We have one very silly trick followed by the last two bosses. Fly me to the moon. This room is supposed to be where you would find like a bunch of flying blocks that you kind of like Tower of Hera in Zelda Link to the Past. But like I said before, when ladders are loaded, you can get the screen transition to happen. If you're not in the room, stuff isn't loaded. So in that room, the bricks that are blocking the wall aren't there, which means you can just kind of leave if you can get up that high, which you can only do in New Game Plus. As for the Enchantress fight and the Nightmare Reese fight, they are both really, really difficult, and I'm going to need a lot of concentration, but essentially both of them are super silly and very funny. So let's see if I can get either of them. Okay, that's not too bad. She can actually die before time, even on freezes, which is totally fine. And then for Nightmare Reese, time will be on the last hit. Going to be using a combination of Judgment Rush to get close to him. The rails are super random, which kind of throws a wrench in the work. I'm going to be using the mirror to get a little bit of early damage, and then the lantern to try and deal as much additional damage otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nice. Nice. And I managed to get the face skip. We go way faster than we probably have any business. This is not good. Ooh, okay. Didn't get the quick kill, but that's fine. I can still finish him off in a second. Time. Okay. Not too bad there. 36:15 is a pretty good time for any small amount of mistakes and no resets. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for having me. See ya.